guys, welcome back to yet another episode on my channel. I will be showing you guys each of the sliders on Lightroom. Each of them explain what they do and what they mean to help you to improve your editing process, to know how to edit better in Lightroom. So let's dive in.
Hey guys, we are in Lightroom right now. We got Lightroom opened up. We are in the Develop tab. We have our raw file opened up and we're going to begin editing. We are going to be using everything in the basic section, so we're going to be explaining all the sliders in the basic section, what they do, how they affect the photo, and I'm going to visibly show you as I edit the photo what each slider does. Alright, so the first is temp and tint, you'll notice. Now color temperature, you notice if you bring it all the way to the left, it'll make your photo very cold and blue. And then if you slide it all the way to the right, it will make it very warm and yellowish. Now I'm gonna go ahead and undo that, and whenever you want to undo something when you're working within Lightroom, on a Mac you're gonna hit Command Z to undo, and on PC it is Control Z. Now tint is very similar to color temperature, except if you slide it all the way to the left, it'll make it very green, and if you slide it all the way to the right, it makes it very magenta or purplish. So we don't like the way that looks, so I typically don't use tint at all when I'm editing. I do use color temperature, but you want to be aware when using either one of these sliders, never to go too far to the left or to the right, or else it'll make your photo look very unnatural and the photos and the colors will be off. It will not look very good. Alright, now that brings us to exposure. That's usually where I typically start editing. I first always change the exposure, either bump it up or bump it down, which you will notice it will make your photo lighter or darker. Now keep in mind, when you're using the exposure slider, it is not there to help fix mistakes that were not right in camera first. So if you have an underexposed or overexposed photo, you really want to work hard at getting it right in camera first, not relying on Lightroom to fix it. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. So however, we can use it to slightly adjust and fix our exposure. Just don't use it as a crutch. And just briefly, I wanted to say that if you don't already know what underexposed or overexposed means, underexposed is when your photo is too dark, and overexposed is when your photo is too bright. But moving on, I'm going to just adjust it slightly, the exposure, because my photo is a bit dark, and just make it a little bit brighter. Next we have contrast. I like to use contrast especially for like black and white photos. It can really add like some punch to your photos and a little bit of depth, and I like to play around with it a little bit depending on what photo it is. So I'm going to use the contrast a little bit, use that slider, mess around with it. You can use low contrast as well by decreasing it. However, that's more so for like an artistic or stylized look you're looking for that particular photo, but we're not doing that for this photo. So moving on, we have our highlights. Our highlights will enhance all the broad, bright parts in the photo, making them brighter. Or if you decrease the highlights, it'll make them darker, but I typically never decrease them because that would be kind of weird. Hence the whole point of highlights. So anyway, we're going to increase the highlights just slightly in this photo to make it a little bit brighter. Now shadows is the complete opposite, similar, except it obviously adjusts the shadows. So the darker areas in that photo, it will bring them out more and make them a bit darker. So bring them more, make them more prominent in the photo, the shadows. Moving on to whites. I love using whites when I'm editing. It's very similar to highlights, except it will only bring out the very brightest parts of our photo. So anything that's close to white, near white, or is actually white, it will definitely brighten that up. So I will adjust that just ever so slightly as well in this photo. Next we have blacks. Blacks is the opposite of the whites. Basically, it'll bring out all the darker parts of the photo, much like highlights and shadows. It's kind of similar, but you know, ever so slightly different. I'm going to adjust the blacks ever so slightly just to show you for tutorial purposes, and then I'm going to undo it real quick. And next we have texture. Now I don't really mess around with texture so much, but obviously it enhances the texture of your photo if you choose to do so. So just for the tutorial purposes, I will show you what it actually does and looks like by adjusting it to the right and to the left. However, I don't typically use it for my photos. And the same goes for clarity. Clarity will also adjust or enhance your textures of your photo and really bring them out. But for this photo, I don't really see the need for it, so I'm not going to use that either. But I just wanted to show you guys what that actually looks like. And now you'll notice a slider called dehaze, and dehaze basically is just like you're trying to remove haze or fog from a photo. You can decrease the dehaze and remove fog or haze, or if you want to add fog or haze to a photo, you can increase it and it can add that effect. However, for this photo, I'm not going to do so. As far as editing it, I don't think that's necessary. However, I will show you what it looks like. So moving on to our last two slides, we have vibrance and saturation. So they're very closely related. They basically help for your colors in your photo to pop and make them more prominent. If you have a slightly dull photo or the colors are, a little bit lackluster, vibrance can help bump it up and add some pop to the photo, as well as saturation. However, you want to be aware whenever using either one of those sliders, never to make it too far to the right or to the left, because it will make your colors a little bit unnatural and a little bit too much. Especially with saturation, you definitely want to especially be careful with that one. And obviously when you slide the slider all the way to the left, that will desaturate the photo, causing it to become totally black and white. So that is it for this tutorial. Thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you got some value out of this for some very basic preliminary editing in Lightroom, and I will catch you guys in the next week in my next video, going all over tone curve.